Step 2 and Step 3 of gumbo. It's time to make the stock. So let's get started again, down and dirty gumbo, and I use chicken broth that it's this particular time. I happen to buy the Giarusa brand. But the recipe calls for 5 cups of stock, and that's a 48-ounce can, so that's actually 6 cups. So I'll just pour off a cup and put the rest in. Good enough. Okay, so that's 5 cups. Okay, and then it calls for a pound of tomatoes in the stock, and I just buy crushed tomatoes, and it's a 28. I'm going to just cut this in half. I am doubling the recipe, so I'm going to use half of this now and the other half for the second part. It's a little less than a pound, but that's okay. So right now I want, let's see, 16 ounces is about right. Yeah. Okay. So that's that. And then we season. Now, in the recipe book here, this little gumbo book, there's a recipe for something called Kay's Special Seasoning. And you can make it yourself, and you make a whole bunch, and that's what I've done. This is just a small portion of mine. It's called Kay's Cajun Seasoning, and it's a 26-ounce box of light salt, 3 tablespoons of black pepper, 3 tablespoons of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of nutmeg, 2 tablespoons of accent or some other, that's optional anyway. 2 tablespoons of dried parsley flakes, 4 tablespoons of red pepper cayenne, that's where it gets its spice, hot and spicy, and 2 tablespoons of chili powder. So that's what this is. I make up a batch of this. It lasts forever, and I use it on other stuff too. All right. Then we want a couple of bay leaves. Oh, remember I had that other chicken stock too that I had saved. A couple of bay leaves. Thyme. It calls for half a teaspoon. This is fresh, so I'm going to use a little bit more. And I happen to have some fresh parsley too, so I'm going to go with about a tablespoon of parsley. Okay. Now, Kay's Special Seasoning is homemade. I explained that before. And I want to use about a tablespoon of that. So for me, that's about a tablespoon. Okay. That's pretty much the stock. And what makes it magical is the roux, when that gets added. I'm going to go ahead and put my chicken in that had been boned earlier. And again, this is the double recipe, so you're seeing both sections go in. Okay. Okay, it's time to make the roux, and sometimes before making the roux is a long process in that you just stand here and stir for about 15 minutes. So it's nice to have a drink while you're doing that. So we took a little pause here and made our drinks, and now I'm going to make the roux. So let's get started. First thing you want to do is cook roux at a pretty high temperature. I've got my pan heated up to medium high, and I had already heated the pan. And 3/4 of a cup of olive oil. Okay. Now I'll just try to add it slowly. Woo. Normally I let it heat up a little more slowly. All right. Then the flour goes in. Okay. That's the beginning of the roux. And here's where it gets interesting and yet boring. But I just keep stirring here, the back of a wooden spoon, and you're going to watch it change colors, many, many colors. We're going for a pretty dark chocolatey brown. Alright, I gotta do something about this real quick. Okay, here we are. We're gonna arrest the scorching. Now, still gotta keep stirring though. Like I said, should be smell-o-vision. Once those vegetables go in, everybody knows you're making gumbo. At this point, I am turning it down. Got it down to a medium low. And this you want to get all gooey. And just kind of keep packing it in, packing it down. Okay, now you're starting to see where it gets the darker chocolate color. There's never a moment to lose once it starts turning. You got to get those veggies in there fast. Okay, I'm going to turn it down some more. It really won't burn at this point because this is an electric burner, it takes a little longer for it to cool down. If you have gas, it pretty much is immediate. This is going to simmer for a little bit. About 10 minutes, cooking it and coming over here occasionally. And stirring it, mixing it up. As you can see, my roux has gotten to a very dark brown, which is exactly what I was aiming for. Now this, once again, I'll tell you, double batch here, and this is half the batch, so this gets half the okra. Okay? So that was about half the okra. Okay. Now, this is going to get all mixed in and continue cooking for about 10 more minutes. So once I get this kind of stirred in, it just will be stirred occasionally over the next 10 minutes or so. And it just smells so good. Too bad you guys don't smell it yet, but when you make it, you will. That just kind of cooked by itself for a few minutes. All right, well, this has been simmering now for a good 10 minutes or so. Again, you're just, going for all the flavor you can. So now it's time to transfer it to the stock. This pan weighs an absolute ton, being cast iron. But I'm going to do the best I can here. Hopefully I won't spill anything. Years ago, this was not a big deal for me. But now it is. My wrists are, not what they used to be. There, that made pretty neat work of it. Good. Even that little left behind wasn't burned. Okay. Now I'm going to stir that in. Should grab the longer spoon. It's really my roux spoon. This is my transferred spoon here. Okay, and this is just going to start cooking now. And you'll start seeing the color become much browner as it cooks along. But basically that's it. Now you want this to simmer for a good hour at least, maybe a couple. And the real secret to gumbo is try not to eat it tonight, refrigerate it overnight. But it'll be good if you want to eat it tonight. Hi everyone, welcome back. Well, the Halloween party was a success. There wasn't much gumbo left, but we managed to save enough to show you the final shot. The way I like to serve the gumbo, here's a nice pretty picture. But the way I like to serve the gumbo is with a little bit more hot sauce. I like to use Tabasco. Other people have other favorite brands, but Tabasco is mine, so I'm going to add a little Tabasco. Some people like to add some gumbo filet. Zatarain's makes a nice ready-made one. Filet is made from sassafras, so a couple of little squirts of, not squirts, but dashes, pinches, whatever you want to call it. And then some people also like to put some oyster crackers on there, so I do, and I'm going to add those. And to finish it as a meal, you might want to have a nice salad and some French bread. Looks like it's ready to go, but I need a spoon. Let's give this a try. I already know it's delicious because I've had a few bowls already. Well, excellent. I hope yours turns out as good as this. Bon appetit.